Hi everyone. In the last video, we have discussed about the first phase of the compiler design, that is lexical analysis phase. In today's video, we are going to learn about the next three phases, that is syntax analysis phase, semantic analysis phase and intermediate form. Before moving on to syntax analysis and semantic analysis, we have to know what is the role of the lexical analysis or lexical analyzer. So the input to the lexical analysis phase will be a source program, and the output of the lexical analysis will be the representation of the source program as a sequence of tokens. This output will be given as input to the syntax analysis phase. So the main role of the syntax analyzer is to check whether this sequence of tokens are in proper order or not according to the syntax of the program, source program. If it is correct, then the output of the syntax analysis will be given as input to the semantic analysis for checking the meaning of that particular syntactic construct or phrase. So the main overall task of this syntax analysis and semantic analysis is that recognizing syntactic units or syntactic constructs in the source program and interpret their meaning. So as I mentioned, syntax analysis is a method of recognizing and thus separating the basic syntactical constructs in the source program. Okay, here syntactic constructs are nothing but each phrases in the source program. Clearly, otherwise arbitrarily we will be taking each statement from our source program as our phrases. Okay, so the overall functions of the syntax analysis and semantic analysis is that first recognize the phrases, that is arbitrarily we will be taking each statement from our source program as our phrases, and each phrases is a semantic entity and is a string of tokens that has an associated meaning. So phrases are nothing but it is a sequence of tokens and it has a meaning also. Once we have recognized each statement or each phrases from the source program, we have to call the appropriate action routines that will generate the intermediate form. That means we know that for each and every source program, it will be having a particular language. If it is a C or if it is a Java, it will be having its own syntax. Syntax is nothing but grammar. So grammar means what? It is a collection of rules or reductions, right? So if our particular syntactic constructs or phrases is matching the syntax of the source language, then we have to what? Call the action routines. That means for each and every grammar there will be rules, and if we each construct or each phrases are satisfying this particular rule or syntax, then it will call the reduction routines. Okay, otherwise action routines. That means if we find a particular syntactically correct phrase, then what should be the action should be performed, that is called action routines. So once we have recognized each phrases in the source program, we have to call the action routines. This particular action routines will perform the task according to the syntactical construct and it will generate an intermediate form. So the syntax analysis will recognize each phrases from the source program, and in the semantic analysis, once we have recognized the syntactic construct, what should be the action we have to perform? That is called action routine. This set of action routines are in general we called semantic analysis phase. So in the semantic analysis phase, it will call set of action routines and it will perform certain tasks, and as a result it will generate some intermediate form. In the case of syntax analysis, if the particular phrase from the source program is not syntactically correct, then it will generate errors. Okay, that is syntactic errors. Okay, then as I told you, there are many ways of recognizing syntactic constructs or phrases or statements from the source program. Here we will be following rules or reductions of the source program to recognize our syntactic constructs. So rules or reductions are nothing but the rules of our source program. Based on that, we are going to recognize each syntactic constructs or each phrases from our source program. So rules or reductions are actually specifying the syntax of our source language, and it define the appropriate compiler action routine to be executed when a construction is recognized. Suppose we have seen variable equal to, otherwise identifier equal to, then what is we are expecting now? It might be an arithmetic statement, right? So if it is of a type variable equal to or identifier equal to, then what is the action we have to perform? We have to call the arithmetic statement, right? So here in the rules or reduction, it will define the appropriate action routine. So as I mentioned before, action routine is nothing but what should be the action we have to perform for this particular syntactic construct. So here actually action routine interpret the meaning of the construction and generate either a code or an intermediate form of the construction. This is the overall idea about the syntax analysis and semantic analysis. Syntax analysis will recognize the syntactic constructs or phrases or statements from the source program based on the rules or reductions of the source program language. Once we have recognized the syntactic constructs, we have to do certain actions. These actions will be defined by the action routines. So action routines will interpret the meaning of the syntactic constructs and it will generate some intermediate form. So in the last video, when we have explained about lexical analysis, we have taken one example. So the same example I am continuing here. So here this is the example showing how we have recognized the or how we have categorized each statements or each phrases. As I mentioned here, arbitrarily we are taking statements as our syntactical phrases or construct. So you can see the rectangle boxes are representing our syntactic constructs or phrases, whereas the dotted lines are using to separate our tokens. So this is the first syntactic construct and the second one is here from here to till here, and this is the third syntactic construct, fourth one, fifth one. So the first syntactic construct is a valid procedure statement. The second construct is a valid declare statement. Then third one is a valid assignment statement. That means we are assigning arithmetic operation value into a variable. Then this is a valid return statement, and the last one, that is end, that is it is a valid end statement. So the entire program has been given as sequence of tokens to the syntax analysis phase. In the syntax analysis phase, what happened? It has recognized each statements. That means each syntactic construct. So we have one procedure statement, declare statement, assignment statement, return statement and end statement. So this is the first task of our, this is the main task of our syntax analysis phase. Then once we have recognized the syntax analysis, we have to perform or we have to call the action routines. Okay, as I mentioned, we have to call the action routines and it will interpret the meaning, that is the semantic analysis phase. After that, in the semantic analysis phase, actually by calling the action routines, it will generate the intermediate forms of our syntactic constructs. So we'll see what is an intermediate form. So we will be having each syntactic constructs. So before converting the syntactic constructs into the target machine code, in between we are generating an intermediate form. that is the object code for each construction. That is called our intermediate form. So it is the process of generating the object code for each construction after determining syntactic construction. So first we will recognize the construction, the syntactic analysis phase. Once we have recognized the phase, we will interpret the meaning, and in order to interpret the meaning, we will call the action routines. As a result of the action routines, it will form the intermediate form of the source statements. Okay, so intermediate form is depending upon the type of the syntactic construction. As I told you, in our example program, we had a procedure statement, arithmetic procedure statement, declare statement, assign statement, then return statement, and end statement. So in general, based on the type of statement, we will be having different intermediate forms. So in general, we have three types of statements, that is arithmetic statement, non-arithmetic statement, and non-executable statement. So first we'll see one by one and what is the intermediate form for these type of statements. So first we'll start with the arithmetic statement. Arithmetic statement is nothing but we will be having a variable, and we will be having the assignment operator, and we will be having an expression, right? So the intermediate form for the arithmetic statement is a parse tree. Okay, so we know already what is a parse tree. So what is the behavior or characteristics of a parse tree? What all variables we have in the arithmetic statement, all those variables will be the terminal nodes of the tree. Then for every operator in the arithmetic statement, we will be having left branch and right branch. Left branch will be the operand 1 of that operator, and right branch will be the operand 2 of the operator. Okay, so here I have showed one example, x equal to y plus z. So here it is an arithmetic statement. So we'll see how are we going to express this in a parse tree form. So this is the intermediate form representation of the corresponding arithmetic statement, x equal to y plus z. So here we have first arithmetic operator. For the arithmetic operator, we have two branches, left branch and right branch. What is the left branch? Left branch is the operator operand x, and the right branch will be again another expression, y plus z. So here again it is containing an operator, so that will be the parent node. So plus will be the parent node, and left side will be the operand 1, right side will be operand 2. So this is one intermediate form for the arithmetic statement. And the example what we have seen before, that it is containing arithmetic statement as this one. So the corresponding parse tree construction for this arithmetic statement is I have shown in this figure. So this is the parse tree representation of the arithmetic statement, cost equal to rate star start minus 1. That is this one. So this is the parse tree representation. Another intermediate form for representing the arithmetic statement is matrix form. That means it is a linear representation of the parse tree. Okay, so we'll see how can we convert the arithmetic statement into a matrix form. So it will be containing basically 4 columns. So matrix number or matrix line number, operator, operand 1 and operand 2. Here we have taken the arithmetic statement as this one. Okay, so here we will be starting with the start minus finished arithmetic statement. What is that? Start minus finish. So the operator is minus, and the first operand is start, second operand is finish. Here for this entire operation, we have mentioned the matrix line number as 1. So the matrix line number 1 represents the operation start minus finish. Then the start minus finish will be multiplying with rate. So the next operation is rate star start minus finish. But the start minus finish result is already available in the matrix line number 1. So the second entry will be matrix line number 2. whereas the operator is star, rate star, start minus finish. But the start minus finish is already available in matrix line number 1. So here we will be representing the second operand as M1. Similarly, we will be having next operands, that is 2 star rate. Okay, so 2 star rate. So how will we perform? Operator is star and operand 1 is 2, operand 2 is rate. Then the next again we need one more start minus finish, right? So again as a fourth matrix line number we will be representing start minus finish. Okay, so here you might be thinking, why do we need to again perform start minus finish? That I will tell you later, but again do remember we will be having one more entry for start minus finish, that is we will be representing the operator and like that. And in between, if we are repeating this, if we are taking any intermediate values, we will not represent that entire expression. Instead of that, we will be representing the matrix line number. So we were talking about the intermediate form, and it depends upon the form of the statement. If it is an arithmetic statement, we have two intermediate forms, that is one is parse tree representation and another one is the matrix representation. Matrix representation is nothing but it is the linear representation of the parse tree. Then another category of statement is non-arithmetic statement. Non-arithmetic statement examples are do, if, go to, etc. So if we have any such kind of statements, what we will do is all these statements will be replaced by a sequential ordering of individual matrix entry. That means we will be creating a matrix, and here in the sequential order, how does it appear in the same sequential order, we will be entering into the matrix. So it will be replaced by the sequential ordering of individual matrix entry. So for example, I have two non-arithmetic statements here, return of cost and end statement. So it is a return statement, it is an end statement. Now we have to see how it is going to represent. So when we consider the statement return of cost, the operator is return and the operand, it has only one operand, that is cost. When we talk about end statement, the operator is end and it doesn't have any operands. So in this way we will be representing non-arithmetic statements. Then the third category of statement is non-executable statements. Okay, so arithmetic statements means we are executing some expression, right? Then a return and end means also we are executing something. So the statements which are not belonging to these two categories is called as non-executable statements. Example, declaring the variable. So the non-executable statements such as declare give the compiler information that clarifies the referencing or allocation of variables and associated storage. Why do we use declare? Because to declare the variables and its size and its value, all this will be declared using the declare word keyword, right? Okay, so here those statements are called non-executable statements. How will we represent this non-executable statements? This particular non-executable statements, we know that it is containing information about the identifiers, right? What are the identifiers or variables used in the statement? Cost, rate, start, finish. So already these identifier variables we have, identifier names we have entered into the identifier table database, right? But here during the interpretation phase, that is the semantic phase, it will add the other information. That means in this declare statement, we will come to know other information about the variables, right? But in the lexical analysis phase, we will come to know only the name of the variables or identifiers. But here in the interpretation phase, it will get the other information about the variables from this non-executable statement. So it will tell what is the name of the variable. It is already entered in the identifier table by the lexical analysis phase. Apart from that, it will tell what is the data type. It is scale is fixed and the base is binary. Then what is the storage class? It is static. And what is the precision? It is 31 bits. So these all informations will be entered into the identifier table in the interpretation or semantic phase. So what all variables we have, only the names of the variable will be entered in the lexical analysis phase. The remaining informations will be entered in the later phases. In that, these informations will be entered in the interpretation phase. Okay, so this is how we are representing non-executable statements. So we have seen the intermediate form. So intermediate form means it is the object code representation of our source statement. Depending upon the statement, we have different types of intermediate form. Most commonly using one is the matrix form. Okay, so parse tree, matrix form, and again for non-executable it will be entering by the interpretation or semantic analysis phase. So we have seen overall idea about the syntax analysis phase and semantic analysis phase. Now we are moving on to the databases using in each phases. Okay, so first we'll start with what are the databases required in the syntax analysis phase. Okay, so now we are talking about the databases required in the syntax analysis phase. So the first one is the uniform symbol table. When I explained you about the lexical analysis phase, I have already explained about the uniform symbol table. What is the use of uniform symbol table? Uniform symbol table is using to represent the entire source program as a sequence of tokens, and it will be created by the lexical analysis phase. Okay, so this particular uniform symbol table will be the input to the another database in the syntax analysis, that is stack. So one database is the uniform symbol table. It will be created by the lexical analysis and it will be containing a sequence of tokens, and this will give the input to the another database, that is stack. And we have already seen what is the structure of the uniform symbol table in the previous video. Now the another database is stack. We have already know what is a stack, right? So here in this particular syntax analysis phase, when we are working on the syntax constructs, the corresponding tokens, that means at present on what all tokens or on what all symbols we are working, those symbols will be stored into the stack. And the stack will be using in both syntax analysis phase and semantic analysis phase, right? Syntax analysis phase to recognize each construct and it has to interpret the meaning of each construct, right? So in these syntax analysis phase and semantic analysis phase, it will be using the stack to add the currently working tokens or symbols into the stack. Another one is then one more thing, we know that stack works in the LIFO order, that means last in first out. Then another important database is the reduction table. I told you how the syntax analysis phase is recognizing the phrases or statements, right? It is based on the rules or reductions of the source program language, right? So the reduction table contains all the rules of your source language. Okay, so it is containing the syntax rules of the source language in the reduction table. Okay, now we have to know what is the form of the reduction table. Okay, so this is a very important thing. What is the form of the rules in the reduction table? And the form is, first it tells the label, but it is optional. The label name followed by colon. Label is optional and it followed by old top of stack. Suppose I have a stack, it contains only 2 elements. Okay, so first I push the element 5, then I push the element 4. Now we will say 4 is the first element, 5 is the second element. So in that way, so the top of stack will be 4 and old top of stack will be 5. Again I am repeating, suppose I have a stack, I have pushed 2 elements, first I pushed 5, then I pushed 4. So we will say the first element is 4, the second element is 5. Okay, in that way we will say top of stack is 4 and old top of stack is 5. So here what is the use of old top of stack means, we will be having each statement from our source program and we are going to check whether it is syntactically correct or not. So the rules will tell what should come after this particular symbol, right? So the old top of stack will be compared with the top of stack. Okay, that means if I am having an arithmetic statement, so cost equal to an arithmetic expression, right? So we know that if cost, after cost and equal to symbol, we are expecting an arithmetic expression. So if the old top of stack is matching with the top of stack, which means what? It is syntactically correct, it follows the rule, right? That for that purpose we are using the old top of stack. So the old top of stack will be compared with the top of stack to check whether it follows whether that particular syntactic construct is following the syntax or not, rule or not. If we found the match, that means cost equal to we have found, and what is the action we have to perform? We have to perform the arithmetic expression. That is the action to be performed. So the action routines tell once a match is found, if the old top of stack is matching with the top of stack, that means syntactically correct. If this statement is syntactically correct, what should be the action we have to do? That will be mentioned in the action routines. Name of the action routine will be specified here. Then it will perform the action. As I told you, cost equal to arithmetic expression. If cost equal to arithmetic expression is matching, that means it is syntactically correct. What is the action routine we have to do? We have to execute the arithmetic expression. So execute that arithmetic expression, as well as we have to make some arrangements. Okay, we have to make some entries. So that action routines will be performed. Once we have done the action routines, what will be the new top of stack? That will be indicating by new top of stack. So the new top of stack is used to change, that means it changes to be made to top of stack after action routines are executed. So after doing the action routines, what all changes we have to made to the what all changes we have to make to the top of new top of stack, that is called new top of stack. It will be mentioning in the new top of stack. Then so we have find syntactically it is correct by comparing all the top of stack with the top of stack. If it is matching and if it is syntactically correct, then action routines will perform. After doing the action routines, if we want to change any changes in the top of the stack, that it will be mentioning by the new top of stack field. Then after that, what reduction rule we should follow? Okay, so which reduction rule or which rule we should follow, that number will be specifying here. In the reduction table, suppose we want to follow the fourth reduction rule, then it will be mentioning here 4. So this is the form of a rule in the reduction table. Label, that is optional, followed by colon, then old top of stack, it is used to compare with the top of stack to check whether the statement is syntactically correct or not. Then it will be followed by a slash followed by action routines. That means if old top of stack matching with the top of stack, then we have to call the action routine specified in the action routine field. Okay, then new top of stack. Once we have done the action routines, what all changes we have to do on the top of the stack, that will be mentioned in the new top of stack. Then after that, which rule we have to call, which reduction rule we have to call, that reduction rule number in the reduction table will be mentioned in the as the last field of the rule, syntax rule. So this is the form of the rule in the reduction table. So these are the 3 databases using in the syntax analysis phase. Uniform symbol table, it is created by the lexical analysis phase and it is using to represent entire source program as a sequence of tokens, and it will be giving input to the stack. Stack means it is another database. That means the stack will be using by the syntax analysis phase and semantic analysis phase. The main purpose is on which all tokens at present it is working on, those tokens will be pushed or popped to the or from the stack by the syntax analysis phase and semantic analysis phase. Reduction table, I told you, in the syntax analysis phase we have to recognize each syntactic construct. Each syntactic construct will be recognized based on the rules of the source language. These rules will be stored in a database called a reduction table, and the form of the rule is label old top of stack / action routine / new top of stack / next reduction. And this is the algorithm, as I already explained when I explained the rule of the form of the rule. So what is the first step? Reductions are tested consequently for match between old top of stack field and the actual top of stack until match is found. So old top of stack will be compared with the top of stack. If both are matching, then it is syntactically correct. Okay, so when a match is found, if the syntactically correct, what is the action should be taken for that particular syntax statement? So that action routine will be specified in the action field, and do that action are executed and from left to right. Okay, then when the control is returning to the syntax analyzer, it modifies the top of the stack to agree with the new top of stack. Okay, so once we have done with the action routine, we have to make the modification in the top of stack as per the new top of stack field. Then step 4. What is the step 4? Step 4 means repeat the step 1, then with the reduction specified in the next reduction field. As I told you, in the rule the last field is the reduction number, so follow that reduction and continue the step 1. So these are the databases and algorithm for the syntax analysis. Now we are moving on to interpretation or semantic phase. I told you in the syntax analysis phase, by using stack and reduction rules, we have recognized each syntactic constructs. Once we have recognized, what we have to do? We have to interpret the meaning. Actually, interpreting the meaning means what? We are calling the action routines. When we call the action routines, what is happening? It will perform certain task. That is called, it is interpreting the meaning. So it will actually, interpretation or semantic phase means what? It is a collection of action routines that will do certain task according to the call of the syntax analysis phase. Okay, so here in general, semantic analyzer determines the meaning of the source string. So actually semantic analysis also will use the stack to, if it wants to add new tokens to the stack, it will use stack. If it wants to delete, for that also it will use the stack database. Then apart from that, it will check the meaning. That means whenever it is doing the exact, whenever it is passing each syntactic construct, then it will get each operator and each operands. That time the operators and operands will be loaded or will be stored into the matrix. At that time, it will come to know the exact data type and the proper operator and operands. Okay, so that time it can check the data types of the operands. If one operand in one form data type and another in another data type, then it can do the automatic typecasting. Okay, so here it will be performing matrix entries. That means whenever we are interpreting the meaning of the each syntactic constructs, that means whenever we are calling each action routine, it will be make an entry to the matrix. That means operator and corresponding operands will be added into the matrix. That time it will come to know what is the actual data type of the operands. Then if it is not matching, then it will do some automatic typecasting. So it also gathers information and save it in a matrix for further processing during the intermediate code generation. So what all information we are storing in the matrix, it will be used by intermediate code generation phase. Okay, then here performs mainly data type checking, where the compiler checks that each operator has matching operands. As I told you, when we are calling action routines for each syntactic constructs, we will come to know in detail information about each operands, that means data type, storage class, everything. That time we will come to know if there are any data type mismatching are there, then it will perform the automatic typecasting. So that is overall of the interpretation or semantic phase. Now we are moving on to the data bases using in the interpretation phase. Okay, so the first one, uniform symbol table. Uniform symbol table is containing the source program as a sequence of tokens. Then another one is stack. That means interpretation phase also will parse again over all the syntactic constructs, and if it wants to add tokens newly tokens to stack, it will add. If it wants to pop, that also will be performed based on using stack database. Another one is the identifier table. This identifier table already created by lexical analysis phase, but in the lexical analysis phase, it will get only the variables or identifier names, but it will not come to know the other information about the variables, which will come to know in the interpretation phase. That means whenever syntax analysis recognize the syntactic constructs, it will call the action routines. As a result of action routines, it will make entry into the matrix. At that time it will come to know the data type, precision, storage class, everything, all those attributes of the identifiers. That time the details will be entered into the identifier table by the interpretation phase. Okay, so the lexical phase enters only the identifier name, but in the interpretation phase it enters all the attributes. That means the storage class, precision, scale, everything, and it will be used in the later phases. But the other information and the address, that means where are we going to store these identifiers or variables, that address will be available only in the storage assignment phase. So we have seen in the lexical analysis phase, we were able to get only the name of the identifier, but in the interpretation phase, since we call the action routines, it will come to know the base, scale, precision, storage class, array bound, structure information, literal value, block info, everything in the interpretation phase. But the other information and address of the variables or the identifiers will get in the storage assignment phase. Then another important database using in the interpretation phase is the matrix. Okay, so we know that matrix is containing a triplet. Okay, so here in the triplet, the first one is the uniform symbol. That means it is representing the operator. Okay, so that means if the operator is plus, that means it belongs to the uniform symbol TRM, right? Uniform symbol TRM, that is terminal symbol. Then the source operand 1, that means it will be an variable, so it will be of type IDN, right? Then another operand of the operator, it will be the third uniform symbol, that will be again identifier or literal, right? So basically the matrix, it's containing 3 columns. First is all will be containing uniform symbols, but actually the first uniform symbol is the operator, then second one source operand 1, then the third one source operand 2. But here it will be reserving fields for chaining. That means later, if it wants to, in the later phases, it wants to make any addition or deletion of entries into the table. For that it will be reserving some fields here. Okay, so that is the we have mentioned here chaining field. Okay, because in the coming phases, if those phases are making any additional entries or any deletion of entries from this matrix database, for that we will be reserving few fields. Okay, that is what matrix database. Okay, but so what are the type of operands we will be using here? So operands will be either operators, operands will be either identifiers or literals or terminal symbols, right? So these are the 3 possible operands, right? Either it can be a variable or a constant or a terminal symbol. That means identifier or a constant or variable. But when you look into the matrix database, we have seen, see here start is a variable, right? So one operand, one can be a identifier, then two, it can be a constant also. Similarly, it can be a terminal symbol also. But when you look into this table, we can see one more type operands. What is that? M1, M4, M3, etc. That means it is called empty X type operands. That means it is representing the matrix line number. That means it is showing another the result of the other matrix line entries, right? So what I wanted to say is the possible types of operands in the matrix are either it can be variable, that is identifier, or literal, or terminal symbol, or one more category, that is the empty X type symbol. That means intermediate result of the matrix lines. Okay, so from where will we get this intermediate result? Intermediate result will be stored in another table. Actually, it is a part of the identifier table, that is temporary storage table. So as I told you, first we have done start minus finish. So start minus finish was the M1 entry, right? And later we did rate star start minus finish. So we have mentioned rate star M1. So this M1 is an intermediate result row. It is a temporary result, right? So this temporary results will be stored in a temporary storage table database. Actually, it is a part of the identifier table database. And this what all intermediate matrix line entry results we are using, those information will be available in the temporary storage table. So MTXN means what? It is giving, suppose it is giving, if I am representing M1 here, which means what? It is showing the result of the first entry in the matrix. That means M1 means what is the result of the first operation in the matrix. Then we will store, along with that result, we will store the base, scale, precision, storage class, and other informations. Okay, but the other information and address will come to know at the time of the storage assignment. Okay, so here this particular information will be using in the storage assignment phase. Okay, so in order to store the intermediate result. Okay, and this particular matrix table will be using in the optimization phase of the compiler. And here temporary storage table will be using in the storage assignment phase as well as the code generation phase to generate the machine code. So this is the important two databases of the interpretation phase: matrix and temporary storage table. Matrix will be what all operations we have, the operator and the source operands, and for chaining action we will be reserving few fields here. So later if any phases wants to add any operands or any fields, for that we will be reserving fields. So when we talk about the types of operands in the matrix, it can be of either type IDN, that means a variable, or LIT, that means it can be a constant. Otherwise TRM, it can be a terminal symbol. Otherwise it can be of type MTXN. MTXN means what? That means intermediate result in the matrix, M1, M2, M3, etc. So in order to, those result will be storing in a temporary storage table database. Okay, so it is a part of the identifier table, but it will be containing all the intermediate matrix line entry result, that is representing by MTXN. So MTXN means what? It is the result of the nth line entry in the matrix database. Along with that, in the temporary storage table, it will be storing base, scale, precision, storage class also. Other information and address for that storing those intermediate result will be come to know in the storage assignment phase, and this temporary storage table will be using by the code generation phase also. That's all about the syntax analysis phase, semantic analysis phase, and intermediate code generation. Okay, thank you. We will see the next phases in the next videos.